Saying we live now.
Let me check real quick.
Yeah, I was gonna do the same thing.
1 second. Let's see.
Right.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. Sure, I'll check too.
And we on the GMS. Oh yeah, it shows me live.
Yeah, we live. Okay. Hey, Shalom Makyam. Hey, we want to give all praises to Yahweh by Yashim Yahweh Shah, by Yashim Kakadash. Give honor to the apostles and elders that rule well, and peace and blessings to you brothers out there that's kicking his word, his sincerity, also in truth. Today we wanted to cover the Hasmonean dynasty. Me and a brother, Tazamah, we did the beginning of the Hasmonean dynasty, what led up to it, going into how, with certain pacts that we made with the Seleucid Empire, we were able to become quite powerful to eventually, when this Seleucid Empire, which we're going to get into, when it fell, we reigned for a substantial amount of time. We're bringing out this sit down because it's very important to understand what led up to the New Testament. What led up to the New Testament is basically, you know, the nation or the empire of, if for lack of a better term, of Judea sustaining itself, and within that empire sustaining itself, man, we were able to hold on to certain of our traditions, man. So in a time where Hellenism was being pushed, so the Hasmonean dynasty was very important because it preserved our culture, man. You see, so we wanted to grab this in Romans 15:4.
God. And I'll read it. I'll read it for
Did
you.
you have anything, brother?
So like you said again.
I'm sorry, Salakia, did you have anything you want to say?
Oh no, I mean, pretty much everything that you just said hits the point home. And it's just it's just very important that we get a thorough understanding of what was going on throughout the time after the Maccabean period. Because
Right.
we had certain men that were ruling. You know what I'm saying? But there was political moves that was being made. All right, there was pacts that was being made. All right, and understanding the pacts that was being made, and like the brother said, like you said, keeping our culture, keeping our culture intact. It was a lot of political aspects that came into power into play too.
That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? So understanding the Hasmonean dynasty as a whole, understanding the fact of why the Pharisees and the Sadducees came into power, all right, gives you a thorough understanding of what Yahweh Shai was dealing with in the New Testament with the Sadducees and the Pharisees, as well as the Edomites coming into power too in our land.
That's right, brother. Beautiful.
You know? But you want me to go ahead and read this for you?
Con.
Khan, this is the book of Romans, chapter 15, verse 4. It says, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." You still there?
Did it kind of go out on you?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I'll read it again.
Yeah, you kind of went out.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Huh?
Okay, yeah, it sounds like it's just cutting out a little bit, but I'm gonna read it again. It says, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope."
That's right. So the things that were written aforetime, going to the Maccabean revolt, these things were written for our learning. You see, because it shows how much our people were willing to die for the law, statute, commandments, for the will of the Heavenly Father. You see, So when we read these certain things, you know, it's to give us, hope, in the Lord, and also strengthen our minds. You know,
Con,
also it gives us understanding about history. You know, what we were doing in this period of time, and also like the brother beautifully brought out, how these Edomites began to reign. Because at one point in time, which we'll get soon, we actually took over that region of Idumea, and made and forced them to convert to Judaism, you know, which
con,
is really going off, but
con. That's
yes,
right. Um, let's see. Actually, there is one more that I want to just get real quick, and then we'll jump into it. Um, this the book of First Timothy, chapter 4, verse 13. It says, "Till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine."
mm,
You know, so we got to make sure that we're giving our attendance to the things that we read, to exhortation, and to doctrine, man. And reading goes into, I mean, yes, yes, of course, the scriptures are fundamental building block for everything else, but the scriptures also talk about not being ignorant in the matter great or small. You see, so understanding our history, because this is our history. These are things that was taking place when we were in power. All right, especially it was called the Hasmonean kingdom. So that we had our own kingdom at that time. So understanding what was going on, the political sect of the Hasmoneans, and who we was dealing with, it's very important that we have that knowledge, because anybody could. We gotta be apt to teach, and we gotta know these things, you know.
that's right.
But that's all I had.
Hey, well, that's the spirit. Can you jump to Second Timothy 3:6? Baba
Con,
Shah.
con. This is Second Timothy. Whoops, hold on. All right, this is the book of Second Timothy, chapter 3. 2 Timothy 3 and 6, or First Timothy 3.
3:16. Sorry about that.
Okay, this is Second Timothy chapter 3, verse 16. It says, "All Scripture is given by inspiration of the Most High, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness." Keep going.
Mm-hmm. No. That was it on that. Can you read
Okay.
that one more time?
Con. 1 Timothy 3 and 16. All Scripture is given by inspiration of the Most High, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness.
That's right. You look up if we can we Google that word doctrine because that's very important. Because if you go into a word that word doctrine is going into a set of beliefs of a given church. You see, and we know that these scriptures were written only for a group of people. You know, so when we read these scriptures, understanding that has Morning and Donnie in the Maccabean revolt, that helps you understand the new covenant and who it's for. And again, that covenant is synonymous with testimony. You see, so the first testimony and the second testimony are only for a group of people. You see, understanding this history gives you a better understanding, if you will, for lack of a better term, of who these scriptures are for that we read. Go ahead, brother.
So I have the word doctrine here in the here, this is just the regular dictionary, or the regular definition for it. It says
Con,
a
that's what
belief,
we
or set of beliefs held and taught by a church, political party, or other group.
you see that?
Hmm.
You see, and this doctrine, you see, is only again for a set of people, which are who? The Israelites, not for anybody else. And if you don't have the understanding of the Greeks, and them imposing Hellenism, various groups in which the Israelites were included, you're not going to understand um, the Bible at all. There's going to be a huge misconception of who the Gentiles spoken about in the New Testament's work. You see?
That's right.
So these scriptures is all about, you know, doctrine, and that doctrine is only for a group of people.
That's
But yeah,
right.
let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and jump into it, bro. Hey, before start in Wikipedia, I wanted to use this book here, and this is the King. It's a King James study Bible, and this is a very good Bible here. The brother from Mississippi did a quick sit down on this Bible here. Uh, and he just going to how this study Bible is very edifying. I recommend if you brothers are into just history stuff like that, man, this is a good scripture. These are good scriptures here, man. I know the brother hit me to it first. Brother Taz hit me to it first. Taz Maslaki hit me to it first, and so ever since then, man, it'll put you on a level. So I strongly recommend you brothers get, if you can, it's $45. Definitely want to invest in it, man. But Taj, you got something?
Yeah, I was just gonna make a point. Something I heard is, man, from the neck down, you're worth pennies, but from the neck up, you're worth millions. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to invest. It's good to invest in things that's gonna build you up spiritually and mentally. Versus investing in something that's really not gonna benefit you at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got it.
Con. So I wanted to read this, and this is a section called "Between the Testaments," and this is the Hasmoneans. Now it states the Syrians recognized the government of John Hyrcanus on conditions that he considered himself subject to Syria and promised help in Syrian military campaigns. Now remember that John Hyrcanus was the son of who? John Hyrcanus was son of Solomon, Simon Salaki Maccabees. Man, you see, they were able to make certain pacts with the various countries and set them up as basically a powerful I don't want to say empire, but a powerful country. You see,
Mm-hmm.
and he was able to make pacts with the eventually make pacts with the Seleucid Empire, which is synonymous with the Syrian Empire. So we hear Seleucid or Syrian is synonymous because they were ruling in the north, and you had the Ptolemaic Empire ruling in the south, Egypt.
Con, if I
Okay,
can make a point too, you
Con.
know, even with the pacts that John Hyrcanus made with
Mm-hmm.
the Seleucids, all right, you had Antiochus the VII that pretty much besieged Jerusalem for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and during that
Mm-hmm.
time, John Hyrcanus being the ruler, and this is like around 134 BC, him being the ruler, Judea or Jerusalem was pretty much in a bad spot. They didn't have no money, they didn't have no food because they was being besieged. So after a year, he pretty much had to make a pact with Antiochus the VII, and with that pact that he made, that truce that he made, he had to break down the walls of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
He had to break down the walls of Jerusalem. He had to pay Antiochus the VII like 3,000 talents of gold for taxes. And on top of that, for him to pay the taxes because he didn't have no money, he had to loot King David's tomb to get the money to pay the taxes, which was forbidden to do, being a high priest on top of that. And then on top of getting money to pay the taxes, him and his people had to join the Seleucid army to fight against the Parthians. You see? So at that time, with Antiochus that destroyed the Judean countryside, and him teaming up for political purposes to better off the circumstances of Jerusalem and becoming in league with Antiochus, pretty much the Jews at that time wasn't feeling John Hyrcanus in the beginning. They wasn't really feeling him, you know. So
Mm.
on, just around that time, it was a lot of animosity between has John Hyrcanus being the high priest and the ruler of Judea at that time and the people of Jerusalem because of what was going on systematically between the Seleucid Empire and the Hasmonean Empire at that time. But I don't want to. You got it.
Shoot, you doing your thing. You got some more to say? Go ahead, bro.
No, because pretty much what I was going to say is it's gonna lead into it as you read it. That's the next part of pretty much what's happening.
Okay. Okay, got you. I'll start from the top. It says the Hasmoneans, the Syrians recognized the government of John Cranus on conditions that he considered himself subject to Syria and promised help in Syrian military campaigns. Certain coastal cities annexed by Jonathan and Simon were also to be relinquished. The,
Salaki,
ru- the
my bad. Well, one more thing I want to say real quick. It just
Okay.
came to my mind because this is kind of going to be before Esau or Idumea got pretty much converted. There was infight in that as well that took place between the Seleucid Empire because when Antiochus went to go fight against the Parthians, he got killed in battle. All right, and when Antiochus died, that gave John Hyrcanus the
Yep.
green light to pretty much go and start conquering other Gentile nations around about him because there was a lot of bullshit going on in the Seleucid kingdom. You
Yep.
see?
And this for a while too, it says in the Wikipedia, which we could jump to next, that
Mhm.
they were actually what's that, semi ruling in a sense,
Yeah.
alluding to the Seleucid Empire and the basically the Maccabees, the Hasmoneans.
Hmm.
You see, to the point to where when uh, the Seleucid Empire disintegrated, that's when you see the rise, like the brothers going into the rise of the Hasmonean dynasty,
Kind.
where they take over several countries, including Idumea. Um, yeah. Did you know what? Can I jump to I want to jump to this right quick.
Yeah, go ahead,
This is
bro.
what you're talking about, and now I read this for you because I know this would be perfect for you. Uh, Now this is according to Wikipedia. The Hasmonean dynasty uh, was a ruling dynasty of Judea and surrounding regions during classical antiquity. Between 140 and 116 BCE, the dynasty ruled Judea semi-autonomously from the Seleucids. From 110 BCE, with the Seleucid Empire disintegrating, the dynasty became fully independent, expanded into the neighboring regions of Samaria, Galilee, and Truria, uh, Perea, and Idumea, and took the title of Basileus. Some modern scholars refer to this period as an independent kingdom of Israel.
Right.
You know, just going into what you were bringing out.
Kind.
You know,
Hey man,
but
at that time, man, we was fighting, for our independence, and when
mhm.
you look into it, when you look at the map of the Hasmonean dynasty of the lands that we conquered, it looks very similar to the lands conquered underneath King David and Solomon. You know, all those different lands up top, like Galilee. There was a reason why, man. It was a reason why Galilee was flooded with Jews, man, because we took over that land from the Iturians and the Nabateans. That was up
Mm.
top, northern Galilee. You see what I'm saying? And we was really trying to expand our borders at that time, man. Because you got to think before with Judas Maccabees, man, our borders was small. Like our borders
Mm,
was tiny. So the
mhm.
Hasmonean dynasty coming into power, it was really an expansion of our kingdom once again. But it wasn't set spiritually. It was really just mainly just trying to. It was off of military might, but it wasn't like necessarily spiritually. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And because our people were still committing apostasy, which
Hmm.
is a fancy word for basically going off, rebelling against the Most High. They were doing away. They were letting go of their traditions and following after the heathens. A lot of people that were in the were actually you know, the seed of the Maccabees. They were avid Hellenists, man. You see, and if you like when we read in we just read in what's that Wikipedia how people started calling themselves what's that Basileus.
Hmm.
I want to say that synonymous with king, man. Let me go back and check that real quick
I
because
think
I'm
that
almost
is.
certain. Yep, it is Basileus is a Greek term and title that has signified various titles of monarchs in history. In the English-speaking world, it is perhaps more widely understood to mean king or emperor. You
Yep.
see, and who was doing that? Well, I want to say it was the son of John Crane is tripping, man.
Yeah.
Aristobulus.
Yep.
He was the first person to call himself a king. You
Yep.
see.
He was the first one to call himself a king and hold the title of a high priest.
Mm. Which for the Pharisees, they felt like he was going off, but they was like the only person who could be a king was a person of David's lineage, and he was a Levite.
Right.
Maccabees were Levites, you see. But I want to go back to his book if possible, bro.
Oh, God, definitely.
Kind. It says certain coastal cities annexed by Jonathan and Simon were also to be relinquished. The effective rule of Hyrcanus, however, quickly affected the reconquer of these cities and the addition of Idumea, Old Testament Edom, and Judean territory.
Hmm.
These conquests ensured the use of ancient trade routes by the merchant class, like, but they posed problems to the religiously oriented Jews. Hyrcanus compared the Idumeans to become circumcised and accept the Jewish faith, a practice that later uh, Judaism disallows. Hyrcanus has campaign in Samaria, where he destroyed the temple of Mount Gerizim. The success of Jewish arms might be applauded by the nationalist element in Judea, but the religious fervor of the early Maccabees were no longer evident. Meaning
Hmm.
what they started converting to Hellenism. You see, and that was always a problem for our people. They always wanted to follow after the way of the heathen, and then that has always been our downfall.
That's
You
right.
know, our people following after Greeks and things of that nature. You see, so our people are into all types of manners of BS. Matter of fact, I could talk about that in First Maccabees. Our
Yep.
people were doing all those various things. We should grab that in First
Con.
Maccabees. What's that? Going to how they were going off was around the 11th chapter. I mean 11th verse. First Maccabees 1 and 11.
Let me look. Let me see real quick.
I want to say that's it. But how they were naked in the gymnasium and stuff like that.
Yeah, First Maccabees 1. Let's see.
I will have my Bible out there. 1611. Where's that? I believe you'll be able to get it.
I'm looking right now. Let's see.
I want to say it's around 11. It's like if I'm going off.
Oh, I found it.
Mhm.
This is First Maccabees chapter 1. I'm gonna start at verse. Yeah, I'm gonna just start at verse 11 and read down. It says, "In those days went there out Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, 'Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.' So this
Mm.
device pleased them well." It says, "Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went out to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen."
So they were so fervent about being heathens that they got licensed to be basically Hellenists. Probably going into the fact that they were changing their names and things of that nature. Because if you look up, you know, the children of what's that, John Hyrcanus,
Uh-huh.
Aristobulus. Well, he had a Jewish name. Well, Jewish. He had a Hebrew name. You
Judah.
know, Judah. You know, but he preferred to be called what? Aristobulus.
Yeah.
You see, so he was probably got a license to change his name, man.
I
You
got a
see,
quick precept.
come
Let me pull it real fast.
on.
1 second. Came to my, okay, here it is. Sirach 15 and 20. It's kind of going on what you're talking about. This is Sirach chapter 15, verse 20. It says, "He hath commanded no man to do wickedly, neither hath he given any man license to sin."
So, regardless of the fact that our people are getting these licenses, things of that nature, that doesn't, change the fact that they were the children of Israel, and because they weren't following after the covenant, they weren't going to be cursed, man. You see, that's why our people are in the predicament they're in now, because they refuse to follow out the way of their heavenly Father, man. You see that, uh, you know, during the time of the Maccabean revolt and during the time of the Hasmonean dynasty. You know what I'm saying? Or not dynasty, but empire.
Con. First Maccabees 1 and 13, it says, "Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen." It says, "Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief."
That's right. So people began to worship, you know, the abomination of desolations that's set up in the temple of the Most High. You know what I'm saying? Bowing down to Jupiter. You know, falling after these various Greek gods, Pan, which is a goat god, which is really from Egypt, Egyptian religion, which if you look that up, Mendez, and that's in Leviticus 7 and 7. You look up that word devils, it goes back to, I want to say, Sarad, which is kind of, sounds kind of like a satire, which is a Greek, half man, you see?
God,
And that goes into what? Yeah, it goes into sexual depravity. You see, all types of sexual lewdness, you know, because that was going into basically, you know, it's a sex act that goes into basically, it's an act of free will. There is no constraints, even sexually. When you had the Egyptians, you look up Mendez, they were actually having sex with goats, in the temple. So, our people were doing all types of abominations, man, and falling into that type of vibration. Our people were sold over to mischief. You see,
people was tripping, bro.
hard, bro. Like hard, bro. Tripping, bro. When you think about it, who are the Greeks now? Edomites. You know what I'm saying? Well, who are the Greeks? The Edomites. Who are people following now? The Edomites. That's why see transgenderism on a rise. You know, that's where you see homosexuality on the rise, man. But yet still, who's done one in AIDS because of falling into these wicked vibrations or idols? The so-called Negro, the so-called Latino. I was watching an article on Vice, an article where I was watching a small documentary on Vice. It was going to have, the Latino community on the border, Mexico and Texas. It's I forget what city it is. I want to say it's in Lubbock. It was in Lubbock. They have high rates of AIDS, man. It's like an epidemic over there. Why is that? Because they find out the vibration is not of the Heavenly Father, man. You see? So even before, our people were being destroyed when I find out the way and now. You see?
God.
The Most High didn't put the spirit on the Maccabees to vote. You know, it's a strong possibility that we would be wiped out, bro. That's why the Most High made it to where we're not going to be wiped out. You see, because our people were sold on being pure heathens. You see, and you see that, during the Hasmonean dynasty, man. That's why there's so much treachery within that empire, man. Go ahead, brother.
God. Do you want me to continue on Maccabees?
Yeah, let's continue in the Maccabees, and actually, you know what? I spoke enough. Let's jump back to the book, bro, because I don't
Okay.
want to make it too long. Because we all been going for almost an hour.
God.
Uh,
Yeah. We can get
yeah,
this.
yeah. So back to the book. And we might have to make this a two-part, brother.
God, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. This is the uh, the uh, 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 the effect rule of. Well, actually, I read that because I don't want to read it. So Hyrcanus will actually jump down to the third paragraph. Before John Hyrcanus died in 104 BC, the borders of the state had been extended on one side. The Maccabean struggle was long past and new rivalries developed. The older Hellenists were discredited, but their ideas were perpetuated in the party of the Sadducees. The Orthodox of Maccabean times became the Pharisees of pre-Christians, Judaism, and in the New Testament. So you had the term the Pharisees and the Sadducees come out of. The Pharisees are called the hidden ones. You see, and they kept the law to the T. You see, they were all about the law, the law, the law. They were so, they were so, what's the word I'm looking for? Excited about the law, Will. They actually made laws on top of laws, which they called oral laws, and they stated that these oral laws were passed down during the time of Moses. And you see an old law come into play in Mark 7 and verse 5. Going into can we grab it right quick, brother? We're
Want to
good.
go to the Colossians 8?
Yeah. We'll go to a brief backdrop of what I'm saying that of that verse there, because there's a lot of history in that verse. You see, for the sake of time, I'm not gonna bring all of the information out. You know.
God. I'm gonna start at the top real quick and just kind of read down.
Okay.
This is Mark chapter 7, verse 5. It says, Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashen hands, they found fault.
That's right. So you have to understand why it was written that way. The Pharisees took, eating things, sacrificing things, even drinking water. very seriously, man, because they want to be pure as possible. So they made it an oral law, you see, to wash your hands. Otherwise, the food would be dama or unclean. You see what I'm saying? But these laws really had nothing to do with the scripture, so they were going off. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Go ahead.
It says, let me go back real quick. Verse 3, it says, "For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding the tradition of the elders."
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you get this word oft, this word is Strong's G 4435, which is pugme. All right. And when you look into that word, it literally means, it says the fist. It says to wash the hands with the fist, i.e., so that one hand is rubbed with the clenched fist of the other up to the elbow. And you see, when you have it wasn't necessarily just, you're gonna wash your hands before you eat dinner. No, it was going back to a specific way that they wanted you to wash your hands,
Mm.
and it was up to the elbow, kind of how you see, um like, let me do it like this, just so you brothers can get like a visual of what I'm talking about, so you can kind of see when you wash your hands up to the elbow. This is where you get how surgeons wash their hands, and that really goes back to the scriptures. You see, and it was a certain way that they wanted you to wash your hands, and this is where they get that from. They get that from traditions of men. What the Pharisees was deeming of laws being on top of laws. You see, so that's what that word, not washing your hands often, like all the times, but it was a specific way that you were supposed to
Mm-hmm.
wash it. So when it says for the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding the tradition of the elders. And this word tradition is padardasis. All right, padardasis, which means, it says here, we go down, let's see. It says, use in the singular of a written narrative, Josephus. It says, of the body of precepts, especially ritual, which in the opinion of the later Jews were orally delivered by Moses and orally transmitted in unbroken succession to subsequent generations, which precepts, both illustrating in expanding the written law as they did, were to be obeyed with equal reverence. You see, so the things that the traditions that the elders was keeping was reverenced as the same thing that was delivered to Moses at that time. So it wasn't just the Pharisees that was keeping the tradition of it was all the Jews at that time keeping the traditions of oral things that was passed down from the Pharisees and the Sadducees at that time. You see, because you got to think, the Pharisees, when when the Pharisees pretty much got their position back, it came through it came through Cyrus pretty much giving us the authority to go back and build the temple again. So we was pretty much like at a mindset like, man, no, we finna keep the laws. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? That's what Pharisee means, a separated one. That's what it literally goes back to. So at this time, when you had the Sadducees come into play, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, they were Jews, but the Sadducees pretty much dealt with the upper echelon of the upper echelon of the aristocrats.
Yep. Upper
You know,
class.
and and after John Hyrcanus died, and you had his son Aristobulus come on the scene, it was pretty much choosing between, all right, am I going to fuck with the Pharisees or I'm going to mess with the Sadducees?
Mm-hmm.
And that brought a lot of infighting within the Hasmonean dynasty until the time that Herod began to rule.
Mm. Yep.
You know, but want me to continue in this Mark, or did you want that point?
No, that's more than that.
Okay, verse 4. It says, and when they come from the market, oh yeah, that's right. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be, which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of tables.
So you had to wash all those things before you ate. It was mandatory because, or at least those things be again unclean out the mind, man. You know what I'm saying? You had to wash these things. It was oral law, oral tradition that was passed down. You see? Go ahead up.
Verse 5, it says, Then the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashen hands?
Mm, keep on going.
He answered and said unto them, Well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
Mm,
For laying aside the commandment of the Most High, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things ye do. And and he said unto them, Full well ye reject the commandment of the Most High, that ye may keep your own tradition. For Moses said, Honor thy father and thy mother, and whoso curse a father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, If a man shall say to his father or mother, It is korban, that is to say, a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, he shall be free, being
and that
hypocrites.
word, yep, and that word "bond," if you look it up, it means like an oblit, like an offering. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? If you want to look it up, bro, it means an offering. You know, and basically they were saying, "Yo, I can't give you this money, mom and pop, because this is an offering." You know what I'm saying, to the Lord. So it was like a set. You know what I'm saying? It was like a set account that they could just put money in, but they weren't taking care of their parents. You see, so it was they were wiggling around the wall, the law with the oil law going off. You
Yep.
see,
That word korban in the Greek is Strong's G 2878, which is karban, which goes back to the Hebrew word kwaraban, which says a term which comprehends all kinds of sacrifices, the bloody as well as the bloodiness. But down here it says a gift offered or to be offered to the Most High,
mm-hmm.
the sacred treasury.
In treasure they was putting up, they were putting the money up, but they weren't taking care of their parents. You see, so but we brought all that out to say, you know, the, the Pharisees were very, very, uh, very, very much so about the law. You see, and the Sadducees, they were more so Hellenists because they didn't believe in reincarnation. They didn't believe in spirits. You know, they didn't believe in the afterlife at all. You know, their concept of the grave was a concept that they adopted from Greek mythology of Hades. You see,
God, yep, and that was this. That was pretty much more on the political side of things.
right?
That was pretty much just like, we gonna deal with the temple, and we gonna follow. And the Sadducees pretty much were dealing with Hellenistic views of things. Like you said, Hades, and they don't believe in angels or spirits. You know, so it was a lot of turmoil within Israel at this time during the Hasmonean dynasty. And as the scripture says, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
That's
You
right.
know, and when you just go deeper into the history of when you had John Hyrcanus and then you had his son Aristobulus rule, you know, and then after Aristobulus's rule, you had Alexander Jannaeus, which
Mm-hmm.
had sons. You had John Hyrcanus the second and Aristobulus the second. All these different people I'm naming were Jakes, but they were all fighting against each other.
Yep.
And they was all fighting for power. That was acting just like Esau,
Yep. Just like that.
acting just like Esau. You got
Con.
it.
Con. Back to the book. It says, but John, before John Hyrcanus died in 104 BC, the borders of the state had been extended on every side. The Maccabean struggle was long past, and new rivalries developed. The older Hellenists were discredited, but their ideas were perpetuated in the party of Sadducees. The Orthodox of Maccabean times became the Pharisees of pre-Christian Judaism and the New Testaments. Hyrcanus was devout and law-abiding, but his children had little sympathy with traditional Hebrew thought. They numbered themselves among the aristocrats, and they came to look with disdain on the rigidly orthodox Pharisees. Ironically, these heirs of the Maccabees became thoroughly Hellenists.
Mm.
You see that? So they became thorough Hellenists, man. The children of John Hyrcanus, which we're going to read about several of them. The death of John Hyrcanus precipitated a dynastic struggle among his children. His eldest son, who preferred his Greek name Aristobulus to his Hebrew one Judah, emerged as victor of three and threw three of his brothers into prison, two of whom are thought to have starved to death. So this wicked demon put his brothers into jail, and two of them starved to death. In his short reign of but a year, Aristobulus pushed the borders of Judea north to Mount Lebanon. King, remember we just read about that. His life was cut short, however, by drink, disease, and the haunting fear of rebellion. Aristobulus' death, he had put he had but one brother living, and he was in prison. Although his Hebrew name was Jonathan, history knows him by his Greek name, Alexander. Alexander John was it
Yeah,
Johnny
Alexander Jannaeus.
Janaeus.
If I may make a point too, real quick,
Uh-huh.
even even at the time of Aristobulus, what wasn't written in that book, is that the fact that his mother pretty much was over the civil affairs, because John Hyrcanus pretty much put his wife in charge of the civil affairs of Judea at that time, and Aristobulus was just going to be the high priest.
Hey,
Come,
you better begin. If you can you repeat yourself, Bob
come,
Kashah? Mm-hmm.
Salaki, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine now, but you were
Okay,
breaking
Khan.
up
I was
a little bit.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to say Aristobulus, uh, he was supposed to be just the high priest, and John Hyrcanus's wife was pretty much over the civil affairs. But what had happened was he threw Aristobulus threw his mom in the prison as well, where she starved to death, and he pretty much took over the rule of becoming high priest and quote unquote king, like the brother Michaela or the deacon Michaela mentioned earlier. The Pharisees got mad because he was pretty much the first one that labeled himself to be a king and a high priest at the same time. The Sadducees and the Essenes didn't really care. They was just like, all right, it is what it is. But the Pharisees was like, hell no. Nah. He can't be considered a king according to the scriptures. The only one that could be a king comes from the Davidic line. So at that time, his brother antagonist, was pretty much ruling with him, and he got a wife by the name of Alexandra Salome. And just to make a long story short, what had happened was Aristobulus got sick. He had like a disease. He got sick or whatever, and Alexandra, his wife, pretty much told antagonist, which is antagonist and antagonist and uh, um, Antagonist and Astrabalus, if I'm saying his name correctly,
Mm-hmm.
they were brothers.
Yeah.
So Alexandra pretty much told Astrabalus, like, man, look, Antagonist want to take your position. He trying to kill you. But she was lying. So she told Antagonist, like, look, Aristobulus, man, he want to see your new armor. You know, so he go, oh yeah, bet, because he was pretty much co-regent with Astropolis. He was co-regent with him. So he goes up, and Astropolis's bodyguards murk him, put him to death, instantly kill him. And then,
Mm.
like a month later, Aristobulus dies from his disease, and now who do you have ruling? You had a woman, Alexandra Salome, which was the second female. There was only two in history, in the history of our kingdoms. There was only two women that really kind of sat on the throne, which was Erythea and Alexandra Salome. And she was the one that released Alexander Jannaeus from prison, which was Aristobulus' brother. So it was a bunch of just infighting and a lot
Treachery.
of treachery going on. You know what I'm saying? You got it.
Khan, under Jannaeus, the policy of territorial expansion continued. The frontier of Judah were extended along the Philistine coastal coast towards the Egyptian frontier and in the Transjordan region. The Jewish state approximated the territory controlled by Israel in the days of David and Solomon, so they were able to take over huge regions. It included the whole of Palestine and adjacent areas from the borders of Egypt to Lake Hali, uh, north of the Sea of Galilee. Perea, the Transjordan, was subject to Jannaeus, as were the cities of the coastal plain, except for Ascalon. The territories incorporated in the Hasmonean kingdom were, for the most part, quickly Judaized. The Idumeans came to exercise an important part in Jewish life, and Galilee became an important center of Judaism. The Samaritans, however, continued to resist assimilation, and cities such as Apollonia and Scatopolis, Old Testament Beth Shean, uh, with only a small Jewish element in their population, kept their non-Jewish characters. But you see how it says there that the Judeans, the Idumeans became to play an important part in a Jewish life, or so-called Jewish life. You know, but remember what we read in the first part of this chapter here. Um, it went and that's going into how the Idumeans were taken over and basically Judaized by John Hyrcanus. You
Right,
see, and soon you will have our people basically making pacts with these with the new Idumean Jewish Idumeans, man. You see,
right.
and they were able to basically take over us and reign in our stead. And a beautiful example of that is Matthew the second chapter,
I get
because
it.
Matthew the second chapter that will actually signify with Herod the Great rule, and that signified us that the Jewish state where Judea being taken down. Before you grab that, bro, I want to grab this right quick
Oh,
in
Con, go ahead.
Wikipedia. That one article that I was showing you before we started, or
Oh,
that one
Con.
part. Yeah, that go perfectly what we're talking about. I think it's showing everybody. Is my screen showing everybody, bro?
It's just showing you right now.
No, it's showing me.
Yeah.
Okay. must have clicked out of it. Actually, you know what? You're on it, right? Are you on it?
Yeah.
The
Want me to read the part with the Hasmonean dynasty?
uh, go down to
Oh, I found it in 63
in
BC.
yeah, and then read that there, and then
Okay.
jump to really the point is in that next paragraph.
Okay. So it says in 63 BCE, the kingdom was invaded by the Roman Republic, broken up and set up as a Roman client state. However, the same power vacuum that enabled the Jewish state to be recognized by the Roman Senate circa 139 BC was later exploited by the Romans themselves. Hyrcanus II and
Mm-hmm.
Aristobulus II, Simon's great grandsons, all right, which these two men here were Alexander Jannaeus' sons, all right.
Mm-hmm.
It says Simon's great grandsons became pawns in a proxy war between Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great.
Because they were both warring at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You see, they were warring for power at the time. You see, and I want to say, let's see here. Uh, Aristotle. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna read this right here because basically one of these, and I forget which one it is, but I have it right here. They were using the Edomite Antipater, which
Yeah,
was the father of Herod the Great, as an advisor.
it was Hyrcanus II.
Hyrcanus II. Thank you, brother. It says, during the years of strife between Aristobulus II and Hyrcanus II, the Idumean governor Antipater or Antipius took a living interest in the politics of Judea. Antipater was bitterly opposed to Aristobulus, partly through fear and partly because of his friendship with Hyrcanus. It appears that Hyrcanus relied much on Antipater and that he was virtually the power behind the throne of Judea. The Jews resented the influence of Antipater almost as much as they smarted under Roman sovereignty, although the Idumeans had been incorporated into the Jewish state by John Hyrcanus. They had never been assimilated, and certain rivalries were never forgotten. You see, and that was our problem all the time. See, we always allowed these Edomites to reign, and we should have took them out. We should have just destroyed them. You see, when we got in power, but see, John Hyrcanus, he converted them over to our religion or our way of life into it. So basically, they were able to sneak in there like they always do and take us over, bro.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened because at that time with the infighting between Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II, you pretty much had Aristobulus take down Hyrcanus because Hyrcanus he was supposed to be the high priest and Aristobulus was just supposed to be a military advisor according to what Alexandra Salome wanted. You know what I'm saying? And Aristobulus got he got mad. He was like, you know what, fuck that, man. I'm about to be the ruler. Even though Hyrcanus was really the next one that was supposed to rule according to the rights of birth. So Aristobulus came with his men, pretty much made Hyrcanus subject and to give up his rights. And what happened was Antipater pretty much told John Hyrcanus, like, man, look, your brother trying to kill you. Because after Hyrcanus pretty much gave up his rights, they made a truce. Hyrcanus and Aristobulus made a truce with each other. And
Mm.
Antipater was like, man, look, Aristobulus trying to kill you. So what happened was Hyrcanus went and sought refuge with the Nabatean king, King Aretas III. And with him seeking refuge with him, the Nabatean king sent like 50,000 men to go help John Hyrcanus out. But Antipater really was trying to get Hyrcanus back on the throne because he knew Hyrcanus was weak. He knew he was weak, so he was like, man, if I can get him back on the throne, get Aristobulus out of the way, I can get Hyrcanus out of the way, and I can, and pretty much my bloodline can rule over here because he was in tight with the Rome. He was in tight with Rome at the time. So Esau always, like you said, Esau always finds a way to slide up in there, just like he did at the time of what was it? It's at the tip of my tongue. What's that dude's name again? Haman. Just like just like Haman, sliding his way up in the high powers with the Persians.
Yeah, Haman. I'm about to say
You know?
Purim.
Like matter of fact, I'm gonna get this real quick precept, and you can go ahead and break it down. Ecclesiastes 12:10. Never
Yeah,
trust
Haman.
thine enemy. As it says, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet
Right.
take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be
I
unto
got
him.
you right here, brother. But you breaking up. Can you say it again?
I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read it again. Can you hear me clear now?
Hey,
Okay. This is Ecclesiastes 12:11.
yeah. I'm about to say breaking up. But I got you. I got you right here. Yeah,
Okay.
because you were breaking up. I got you though. You're
Okay.
right. 12:10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though
Mm-hmm.
he humble himself and go crouching, and beware of him, and be unto him hadst wipeth a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away.
Yep. Go ahead.
Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he shall stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words, be pricked therewith.
You see, and that's Esau, man. That's the self-proclaimed white man to the T because he's done that with every nation. He did that. He did that with the Persians because even when he was next to Artaxerxes, at the end of the day, he was planning. Haman was planning on taking down the Persian Empire for the Greeks to rule. You see, so the same thing now. It says, "Neither let him sit at thy right hand," which Antipater was John Hyrcanus II's right hand man. He was his advisor. Least he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. And that's exactly what happened. That's how Herod the First came into power and to be known as quote unquote the king of the Jews. Why? Because going back to John Hyrcanus and going down throughout time, those Edomites assimilated into our ways.
That's right.
And keep in mind too that Herod didn't just look like no Edomite. He looked like he had dark. He looked like he had a darker hue to him because of the wives that Antipater was marrying. And then Herod the
Mm.
First was marrying the Hasmonean queens at that time, Arabian women, which had darker hue, and he already had a darker hue to himself. So Herod Archelaus and his sons, they had a darker hue to him. That's why Yahweh was calling him a fox. You know what I'm saying? Because they were really claiming to be Jews when they were Edomites. And it all goes back to the infighting that was taking place within us, and Esau slid his way up in there.
Yes, up here.
He always does, my man Easy E, being
Yeah.
being the slippery devil that he is. What happened? He
Mm-hmm.
became to be known as the King of the Jews.
So you did that.
And it
Hey,
was
did you want to
all
crack it?
systematically taking place. And you see how systematically it took place during the proxy war between Julius Caesar and Pompey.
Mm-hmm.
Want me to finish this up?
Uh, yeah. Finish that up, bro. I'm gonna crack. something for you.
Con. I'm gonna finish this up real quick.
Um, okay.
It says the deaths of Pompey in 48 BC and Caesar 44 BC and the related Roman civil wars temporarily relaxed Rome's grip on the Hasmonean kingdom, allowing a brief reassertion of autonomy backed by the Parthian Empire. This short independence was
So
rapidly
if you're
crushed.
speaking, hey
Say
brother,
again?
I'm sorry, but you breaking up hella bad. Can you start from the top again?
Con.
For some reason, it comes in waves.
Yeah,
You know how I say.
you know how Satan is. I'm gonna start right here where it says the deaths of Pompey. Is that cool?
Hey,
Yeah, you broke up real bad right there. Now, can you hear me? Oh, okay, my bad. So like, okay, so I'm gonna start right here. It says the deaths of Pompey in 48 BCE and Caesar in 44 BC and the related Roman civil wars temporarily relaxed Rome's grip on the Hasmonean kingdom, allowing a brief reassertion of autonomy backed by the Parthian Empire.
mm-hmm,
This short independence was rapidly crushed by the Romans under Mark Antony and Octavian.
mm-hmm,
Here's where it kind of goes in. So it says
mm-hmm,
the dynasty has survived for 103 years before yielding to the Herodian dynasty in 37 BC. The installation of Herod the Great and Idumean as king in 37 BC made Judea a Roman client state and marked the end of the Hasmonean dynasty. Even
that's right.
then,
Now,
uh,
now, who's Herod the Great? Well, that's the same Herod that you see spoken about in in Matthew the second chapter that was trying to get Yahushua killed. You see?
right. I'm gonna finish this paragraph up. It says,
Mm-hmm.
even then, Herod tried to bolster the legitimacy of his reign by marrying a Hasmonean princess, Merimene, and planning to drown the last male Hasmonean heir at his Jericho palace. Man,
Mm. Ooh, yeah.
he was trying to make that line stop.
Yep. We trying to kill him.
hmm It says in 6 CE, Rome joined Judea proper, Samaria and Idumea, biblical Edom, into the Roman province of Judea. In 44 CE, Rome installed the rule of a procurator side by side with the rule of the Herodian kings. And that's pretty much at this time, this is where you had Esau pretty much taking Esau pretty much was ruling in our land 100%.
Yep. Yep. Hey, check it out. It's 144.
Yep, I caught that. I caught that.
Uh, I'm gonna share my screen right quick. I want to get this precept for you.
Done.
Now, this is Matthew 2 and 1. Now, when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east of Judea, of Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him." When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Mashiach should be born. And they said unto him in Bethlehem of Judea, but thus it is written of the prophet, which is really on that. Uh,
Done.
but if you read down, I was hoping they would say that quickly. He was trying to get Yahweh Shai basically killed. See what I'm saying? And
Done.
yeah, he was trying to get him killed. And if you
If you jump down to verse 13 and read through 16, that's what talks about it.
I ain't gonna have to keep reading now. He said 13.
Yeah, if you just jump down to verse 13 and read through 16, that's pretty much what I'm talking about.
Okay, beautiful. Jump down to verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of Yahweh appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the love of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. And Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise man. Oh man,
Man,
that's Esau for you, you
yep.
know.
Going to show you that
That's
Esau is the
Esau.
modern day Pharaoh too.
Yep,
You know,
that's right.
but I mean, but the Hasmonean dynasty, man, this definitely is some very is very tedious, a very tedious
Yeah,
study, which we I mean, at the end of the day, we were only really scratching the surface. I mean, we pretty much did a fast track on it. You know what I'm saying? But when you just really go into it, we're really just scratching the surface on it. We could be going for another 3 hours if you really want to get deep with it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that an hour and 30 suffice.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
definitely.
saying? Yeah, we could keep going, but it'd be kind of redundant. But
Kind.
it was edifying, man. You know, these are one of those vids that's not gonna be very popular. 3 people are watching it, about something crazy, and Jake will listen to it, you know what I'm saying? But most are willing, I'm being funny, but most are willing, brothers were edified. I felt like we brought out a lot of information, and hopefully, brothers can take a time out and really just do some research on what we were saying. Do you have anything, bro?
No, I believe that everything's been said, man. I just, like Mike Allah said, that brothers just take the time out and really sit down and really understand what what our people was going through, what was going on at these times, so you have a better understanding of what was going on in the New Testament. You know, because
Right.
you'll see Hasmonean or you see Herod and you read about him, but then again, you don't really do thorough research and really figure out what was going on and how these certain men came into power. You know what I'm saying? And you just don't know. Because I'll be honest, before I knew about Herod and Antipater, I didn't know that Antipater was an advisor to John Hyrcanus II. You know what I'm saying? But until I did the research and figured out, I'm like, dang, so that's really how Esau got up in there.
Yep,
You know what I'm
that's how
saying?
you got
It wasn't Esau just popped up and all of a sudden, that's not what happened. Things happen in a dispensation of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a little one lesson was edifying. Yeah, that's all I got.
God, God. Hey, man, we want to give all praises to Yahweh by Yashem Yahweh Shah, by Yashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and others that rule well, and peace and blessings to you brothers there. Let's keep his words sincerity and truth. Shalom.
Shalom.